so what are men compared to rocks and mountains? That's one of my favorite quotes from one of my movies, but what does that pertain to my topic? So rocks, for one, are millions, if not billions, of years old, and today are studied for entertainment purposes as well as academic resources. What is this entertainment I speak of, you would ask? Where one relies on sore muscles to pull or push oneself higher. What I speak of you may already know or heard of, and maybe even experienced. Today I want to introduce to you the thrilling, but so noting dangerous hobby of rock climbing. Unlike many sports, rock climbing does not date back to the ancient times. Okay, so it started in the 19th century, and it was used to explore different parts of the world as well as get to a different place, like for say, you're traveling and you need to get from one side of the world to another. And because of that, rock climbing was necessary. So the first rock climbers were in the 19th century, and they used different kinds of equipment from today. And because of that, as time rolled on, it became a hobby instead of a lifestyle. The trend became an introduction for indoor rock climbing, which is artificial rock faces that are designed to stimulate actual formations. The safety equipment from today's technology, which is used in indoor arenas, have made it possible to practice and experience the thrill without much risk. And that's me. Okay. When it comes to sports, the burden of equipment is just as important as the sport itself. So I brought some visuals. This is the harness, and there are different kinds. So like they have two hooks here, where you put your feet in between. So you sort of slide it. So this is the harness. It goes on the hips, as well as the pelvis right here. So then you sort of slip it through. And supposedly, because this is the harness that keeps you practically alive and on the rope, so it should be really tight. So make sure you don't fall or maybe jump from the rope. So that's how mine goes. Okay, so there are two hoops on the front, which is right here, and where the harness climbs, for the climber to tie the rope at the working end with the figure-8 knot. So I don't have a rope, but it goes in between here, and there's a figure-8 knot which sort of protects you. Okay, so there's a belay device. Belay device is the second most important. So the mechanical friction brake device is used to control a rope or the line, or belay, and the main purpose is to allow the rope to be locked off to arrest a climber's fall. So there are two different types of belay devices. This is the passive. The passive relies on the belayer's brake hand. So we use, this is where the belayer's hand goes, and they sort of like slowly let down the climber. So, and then there's the active belay device, which is this one. It's a built-in mechanism that locks off the rope without any help of other devices or hand. So the last most important would be the shoes. I'm not going to put them on because it will take forever. Okay, so this increases the grip of the foot on a climbing wall as well as the friction. So the shoes are sold with a vulcanized rubber, so it's really hard. And then usually shoes are only a few millimeters thick and fit very snugly around the foot. And stiffer shoes are used for edging, so just tip your toe up and you can sort of get to a different area. Okay. Every sport has benefits as well as consequences. In rock climbing, the benefits definitely outweigh the consequences, though the consequences are more severe. So you are able to build muscle and endurance because climbing requires a lot of upper body strength. Usually 1 hour of rock climbing session can burn well over 700 calories. As well as the building of muscle and endurance, it can also reduce stress. It reduces stress by increasing levels of norepinephrine, a chemical that helps balance our brain's response to stress. So we have indoor rock climbing injuries, which is you can have contact with the wall itself. So like you may be swinging and you may accidentally hit the rock and you may be ending up with bruises. And also broken bones, depending on where you hit yourself against the wall. And then for outdoor rock climbing injuries, there may be loose rock where you accidentally hit your head, the rock's falling from top. And you may lose your grip, which may cause you to swing and again have contact against the wall. Route choices are a lot more important because you may accidentally slip, or there might not be enough grip for you to move on. And there may be trip accidents where you jolt on the rope and you may cause paralysis or maybe even death. Whether this lifestyle causes major injuries or not, many still demonstrate this sport as a worthy risk by attempting it. Even though rock climbing is a rather dangerous sport with a recent history, it has thrills that not many sports can provide.
All right, Diego, what did you think?
I thought it was well organized. I thought the visuals were very effective. Like putting on the harness and showing it how you put it on was a nice touch. I guess maybe speak a little bit clearer. There are a couple of times where maybe someone might have had trouble understanding what you're saying. But overall, I thought it was a good speech. Maybe stand a little bit farther so that everyone could see you putting on the harness.
Okay. I like the intro. I want to know what movie the quote was from. You never said. The subject is introduced okay. You've got a little bit of suspense that you use at the beginning, and I like that. And when you get to the reveal, I think that's pretty effective. The picture that you show of the climbers there at the beginning, I guess that's supposed to represent 19th century climbers. I don't know exactly when the photograph is supposed to be taking place. The idea that there's a relatively recent history to rock climbing as an activity is an interesting one. I do think that you ought to give us some sourcing for the historical information that you're citing there, and I never really heard that. That was one of the criticisms that I have of the speech, is that I didn't think that the source citations were very consistent. I didn't hear where you got the information. Your descriptions are pretty good, and I did appreciate the personal aspects of what you're talking about. When you talk about your own rock climbing, you've got your own picture included in that. I like that. I think that's all good, but I don't think it's enough by itself without some additional material. There's not really a preview of the speech. I know what the subject matter is, but there's not really a layout of what the roadmap is. And kind of the same thing that I was saying to Enrique before, I think I'm going to repeat to you. And that, as a consequence, even though I think it's relatively well organized, I don't exactly know where I'm headed during that organization. I just know what the subject is. It's like, I'm going to introduce you to this subject. Well, there are lots of things that I could be introduced to on the subject. What am I going to get? Why people do it, or what the advantage of doing it is, what the equipment is that's required, where you can do these kinds of things, why I do it. there are just a lot of different potential things. I don't know what it's a hodgepodge, and I think you need to lay it out for the audience at the beginning of the speech so it's clearer what's happening. So I mentioned to you the support issue that I think was a little bit problematic. I think our audience interest is pretty high. You've got some interesting pictures, and the equipment, I think I said this when we were talking about using visual materials. People just like to see stuff, you know, it is right there. And I think Diego pointed it out. It's intriguing watching you put on the equipment and seeing what it looks like there. That's a lot more interesting than just looking at a picture of it on you when you're hanging on the wall there. The two braking systems, I know that you used a different term for it, that you have, I think you could explain a little bit more about why they are different, why you would want one or the other depending upon the kind of climbing that you're doing, what the function of them is. I mean, ultimately the function is to keep you from dying, but if one is better than the other, why wouldn't you always use the one that's better than the other? There may be reasons that you use one or the other, and I don't know what those reasons are. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more explanation of that. I could kind of see on the first one where you're talking about the hand-operated part and you're showing how the resistance works, I could see, okay, so it's like a brake. You know, you push the handle down and it slows you down. How's the other one work? I don't know. And I think it's because you release tension on it in one spot above or below, that sort of thing. But I'm making that stuff up. I don't know that that's true. I'm just making an inference here. You, I think, needed to explain that a little bit more. Like I said, I like the visuals for the most part. I didn't think that clarified enough understanding of the two different braking systems. So you had them, they large enough to see. The images are really nice and large and easy to see. So I thought that was good. Like I said, I just think it needed to create a little bit more explanation, as to a little bit more understanding about what's going on. You're very dependent on your notes. And sometimes it sounds mechanical as a consequence. Instead of you're talking to us about this thing that you do and that you like doing, you're having to look at your notes to talk about that, and it takes us out of this a little bit. Like I said, I think we need a little bit more research in the presentation too. You, at one point, talked about how many calories it might burn an hour. I'm going, oh, that sounds pretty good. How do you know that? Where'd that come from? Is this personal experience? You measured your own calories? I don't know how that works. So, like I said, I think you need a little bit more research in the speech. But otherwise, I think that there are a lot of good things in the speech. Thank you.